With the coronavirus pandemic, I hope most Americans realize the importance of getting paid mandatory sick leave. But unfortunately, on a federal level, we don't have that in this country. So states are left to decide for themselves whether or not they're going to regulate companies to ensure that they offer employees mandatory paid sick leave. Now, a lot of states don't. One of those states is the state of Pennsylvania, where one lawmaker has actually been fighting pretty aggressively to prevent any potential legislation that could make sick leave mandatory for companies. This is State Representative Seth Grove, and he's been on the warpath for a while now. Representative Grove has been pushing for legislation to bar localities from imposing such requirements that provide employees with medical leave for ailments and injuries since 2013. Really taking up the good fight here. His latest bill reintroducing the measure would be retroactive to 2015, the year Democratic strongholds Philadelphia and Pittsburgh passed laws mandating paid sick leave. Now, what you should also know about this story is that Representative Grove is currently on paid sick leave as he's recovering from coronavirus symptoms.
Oops. Okay. So, first of all, they're going to strip out paid sick leave from the COVID relief bill. That leaves 87 million Americans without paid sick leave. And if you don't know the details of this, especially if you are wealthy or you live in a developed nation, you're going to be shocked at America's system. Right now, those 87 million people, if they get sick, no one cares. You have to show up to work, otherwise you get fired. You have the flu, I don't care. You have bronchitis, I don't care. You've got COVID, I don't care. You're gonna show up to work or you're gonna get fired. But wait a minute, I would give COVID to others. Don't care. In these preemption laws, they're stripping out even COVID relief. The Republicans fought the piece of the bill that would have earlier, in an earlier legislation at the federal level, would have said if you have COVID, you can get 2-week paid leave. It's not 2.5 months of paid leave. They're making it seem like, now they all of a sudden, if you're sick to the point of nearly dying, they want a day off. Bunch of socialists. No, we don't do that here in America. We drive you back into the fields and the mines and the plants, and we make you work at $7.25. And if you give the sickness to the rest of the coworkers, who cares? Now, do you know that among lower wage workers, about 73% of them don't have sick leave? You know how much of the higher paid workers in America, the white collar workers, don't have paid sick leave? Only 5%. So if you're in a white collar job, they don't even understand this. They're like, I bet you, I swear to God, you talk to executives, if they're not making those decisions, they're just a rando executive, and you told them that other people don't have paid sick leave, they wouldn't believe you. They're like, well, what happens if you get sick? Or they make you show up to work. They're like, no, there's no way that's true. And we live in the same country. Yes, and jerks like this, and I'm trying to be as polite as possible. The guy we're talking about in Pennsylvania, he's like, I don't care. No. Real freedom means the freedom to work on your deathbed and be fired if you don't. That's who these Republican barbarians are. They hate you. And this is not about bums. These are all working people. They hate the working class in this country.
Look, honestly, every break that workers have gotten in this country's history weren't just handed to them by corporate CEOs looking to do the right thing. They're not gonna do the right thing. They're gonna do what they wanna do in order to provide returns to their shareholders, to make profit, and they wanna cut costs, right? So of course they're not gonna pay for sick leave. They're not gonna wanna do it out of the kindness of their own hearts. The reason why we have the weekend, the reason why we have any, worker or workplace regulations is because it was fought for by organized labor, and we don't have that anymore. I mean, we have a very small percentage of workers who are unionized right now, and there really isn't enough power behind that in order to fight for what we need. And when you couple that with an incredibly corrupt political system, with money in politics, we're gonna lose every time. And so I think it's ridiculous to leave it up to the states to decide for themselves whether or not they're gonna offer worker protections or paid sick leave or paid family leave. You really do need some leadership from the federal government, but the federal government doesn't really care about you either. I think that's pretty clear. They care about their donors, they care about ensuring that they get reelected, and they need money in order to do that. And so they're gonna side against you every single time. Doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or a Republican. And to be quite honest with you, I'm so tired of having the same annoying strategic debates about how the Democrats can accomplish it. They're clearly not serious about it because they're not fighting for it as a party. You might have a few progressives who try to make a stink about it, but at the end of the day, no one is really willing to put all of their energy behind ensuring that we have regulations on a federal level that protect the best interests of workers.
Look, Democrats are total losers. Let's just keep it real. So, and they don't mean a word of it. Look, we get proven right 1,000 times over here, and every time people don't get it. Not you guys. You guys get it. But the people in Washington media are paid not to get it. So Democrats, you're really not going to pass paid sick leave. You're going to take it out of COVID relief.
They're not.
And then when you go to bring it up as a standalone bill like minimum wage, they're going to say, "Oh, reconciliation, filibuster, hide behind technicalities, and have the media all support you by pretending those technicalities are real." The filibuster is not in the Constitution, is an old relic that was meant to protect lynching. I'm not joking or exaggerating, okay? And so the technicalities are totally irrelevant. Joe Biden could come out and do a press conference. He did a giant town hall the other day, normal patty cakes, right? Now here's what he could do instead. The Republicans don't want you to have paid sick leave in the middle of a pandemic. They say that you should not be able to take one day off if you're a working class man in America. Now you give all that BS mythology fables about, "Oh, I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania, I'm regular Joe." Regular Joe stands up for a guy who can't take a single goddamn day off. But what are you doing? Well, Joe Manchin and cinema and reconciliation and the parliamentarian. I don't give a goddamn what the parliamentarian says. You could end the filibuster. You could do executive orders. You can do anything you want. You're the president of the United States of America. He doesn't want the paid sick leave. He doesn't want minimum wage to pass, and he uses all that as an excuse. Now back to the Republicans. This Grove guy in Pennsylvania is part of ALEC. ALEC is a lobbying group formed by corporations. They literally write bills for corrupt, crony capitalist pigs like Grove. And then Grove hands it in. So why do I say that? In this case, he does preemption. Pittsburgh and Philly says, look, somebody's got COVID, somebody's sick. We're gonna allow them sick leave. Not outright, a week, 2 weeks. That's it, right? And Grove gets a bill from the corporation saying, no, that will cut into our profits by about 27 cents. Back to the mines. And then Grove goes, yes, sir, absolutely, sir. And we're preempting. Why are we preempting? Oh, freedom. We're freeing the workers to get their asses kicked and maybe die on the job, right? And then he says this, because remember, Republican donors, and by the way, Democratic donors, they don't want smart politicians. They just want an idiot who'll take orders and do as he's told. So Grove says this, filling that role. If Pittsburgh and Philly want to be San Francisco, they could just go to San Francisco. I'm pretty sure the cities of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia cannot move to San Francisco, you goddamn moron.
And I don't want anyone to think that Pennsylvania is an isolated case. This is true of so many different parts of the country. And again, I mean, we don't have politicians who are fighting for us, and we don't have powerful organized labor to also fight on behalf of workers. So
yeah,
the system it's just rigged against you. I don't know what else to say. It's so because that's why when people are like, I get the urge to just blow off people like QAnon conspiracy theorists as crazy and stupid. But we live in a system that makes no sense. And when you live in a system that makes no sense and no one's answering your questions or explaining what's really going on, you're willing to believe anything. Anything to make sense of this nonsensical system that we're living in right now. I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but I do think it's part of the problem.
No, Anna, you're 100% right. Because when the media says no, it actually, does the system make sense? Yes, it's built by the donors. They pay the politicians, they bribe them to the tunes of billions of dollars, and then they get exactly what they wanted. That actually makes logical sense. The only reason why the QAnon people and the right wing, and Anna, I'll go further. Even though they're nuts and they're looking for solutions in all the wrong places, their instinct, their original instinct that there's something wrong is actually better than the Democratic voters. Democratic voters eat up that New York Times, NPR BS like it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Oh yeah, no, politicians are honorable and they're having a debate about the reconciliation and the filibuster, and they have principles. No, they don't. And so what the right wing is sensing, you guys are liars. Right wing, you're right. The general national media in that particular case, which is massive, is lying to you. It's all corrupt. It's all corrupt. But it's not Soros and anti-Semitic weirdo conspiracy theories and nobody's eating babies. No, it's simple. They want to make money. They give money to politicians. They get favors back. So they not giving you paid sick leave saves them money. So that's why they bribe the politicians who say you can't get paid sick leave. There, I made sense of it. It's so easy. Why does it take an online show to tell you the most obvious things in the world? Why doesn't the so-called best news organizations in America, like New York Times, NBC, all these billion-dollar corporations, why don't they tell you the most obvious thing in the world? It's the goddamn bribery. So, and look, last thing, where's the hope? Here's the hope. And if this doesn't work, then I'm gonna give up on all politicians. We're gonna politically just forget about electing people. We're just gonna talk about tearing them down, okay? So, but it's got to work, and being constructive is 1,000 times better. And I have all the hope in the world. NinaTurner.com/hello. Now, why do I say that? I'm not just saying that I like Nina Turner, she's a progressive, all that stuff. Somebody's got to get in there and have the courage to do a press conference and say, Joe Biden, you're gonna take out paid family leave and $15 minimum wage from this COVID relief bill? No, you're not. I'm gonna call you out. You know that you can stop this. Manchin Cinema. Here, let me tell you why Manchin and Cinema are doing it. It's their donors. And if Nina doesn't do that, then nobody's gonna do it. And we're all screwed. But I think Nina is gonna do it. And if she does, she'll rock their world. And by the way, all the progressives in Congress, you could do that now. It just takes a little bit of courage to call out your so-called colleagues. Anyway, NinaTurner.com/hello. There is hope.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.